Welcome to KPI's Intro to Excel. We're going to go through some of the fundamental aspects of Excel, some of which longtime users of Excel will already be familiar with, others of which even longtime users may not already know. So let's get started. We'll start with the geographic basics of Excel. What we have here is a brand new Excel workbook, and you'll notice it's broken out like a grid. Across the top here we have headers that are all in letters, A through Z, and then it continues on AA, AB, AC, on for a while. And here across the left we have row numbers, and all numbered, 1 through 1 million plus. Yes, it actually goes to over 1 million rows. And what these denote is these letters represent the group of cells going down, known as columns. And these numbers denote the group of cells going across, known as rows. Now, knowing the difference between a column and a row is going to be pretty important later on, but fundamentally it's one of those things that makes using the tools in Excel a lot easier. Well, one of the things that I want to use in this video is something called referencing. So in Excel, if we were to put information in any one of these cells, let's start with this one, we can use that information in any other cell. We can use it in an equation, we can use it in a formula, and we can use it in a function. And there will be individual videos for each of those equations, formulas, and functions later. But one of the things that I want to show you here is how we would use that information. So let's say we have this number 1, and we want to refer to it all the way over here in cell H7. What we could do is type equal sign, and then we need the location of the cell we're using. So in this case, we're talking about cell A, which is the column, and 1, which is the row number. So it said equals A1, and then hit enter. So now we get the same information in this cell that we have in this cell. And sometimes you'll get the question, well, what happens if I change the information in this cell? Will it reflect over here? And the answer is yes. So let's change the information that's in cell A1. And let's change this from 1 to 4. Once we hit enter, voila, our information is instantly transported over to our other cell. And we can take this and we can copy it just about anywhere we like. Oh, but wait. So if we go to this cell, it says equal A1. So if we tried to copy it over here, it gives us this error, which is a pound ref. In another video, we'll go into the different errors in Excel and what they mean, but for now it's sufficient to know that we received an error. So our reference over here isn't valid over there. There's a reason for that. There's different types of cell references that you can use, and we'll go into that right now. So first, let's delete this information. And we're going to create over here the same reference that we created over here. So equal A1 and enter. Now, if we go from here, we can copy this to here, or here, or here, or here. But what if we copied it over here? Oh, there's that error again. Well, how about we copy it over here? Now we're not getting any information. Interesting. But as long as we went down this line, 1 row over, 1 column over, 1 row down, it worked. Let's look into why that is. So if we go into this cell, what we put in was equal sign A1. So what it's doing is referring to A1, which is 1 row up and 1 column over. Now you'll notice if we go to this cell, it gives us a different reference. this cell is now referring to cell B2. So it's still referring to one column over and one row up. You'll notice it does the same thing all the way down the line. And this is what we call a relative reference. So this formula that we created is returning a cell that is relative to the cell that we put it in. Since we're looking at one row over, or one row up and one column over, it's going to keep looking at one column over, one row up, one column over, one row up. But what if we always wanted to refer to just this cell? Well, we could do something a little different. We could create what's called an absolute reference. And the difference between a relative reference and an absolute reference is an absolute reference will always point to the same cell. So how we would do that is, let's go into this cell, B3, and we'll type equal A1, the same as we did before, only this time we're going to do something else before we hit enter. We're going to hit the F4 key, just once. Now you notice when I hit the F4 key, it put a $ before the A and a $ before the 1. It also capitalized the A, but that's not important to us for now. But the $ are going to be important, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So let's hit enter. So now, if we take this formula that we put in the cell B3, and now we can take this and copy it to anywhere in our book and get the same number that we had. And again, if we change the information in this cell, everything else changes too. But let's go back and talk about the difference between a relative reference, no $, and an absolute reference, $ before the column, $ before the row. The $ tell Excel that this is not relative. It's saying that A, the column, is not relative, and 1, the row, is not relative. So no matter where I paste this, field or this equation, it's always going to return the same cell. Whereas these, no $. So what that's telling Excel is that the column is always relative and that the number is always relative. Now, those are the two, we'll call them extremes in how you do cell referencing. There are also options to create row relative references and column relative references. And for more information on that, see the video on relative referencing, and we'll go into more detail. Thank you.